Join us for 3 days in Orlando, Florida in March 2026 for an event designed to equip IT professionals like you with the tools, knowledge, and strategies to navigate the ever-changing cybersecurity landscape. Secure your spot and register to join us for 3 days of immersive learning, collaboration, and skill building with hands-on hacking labs and much more. Network with peers from around the globe. Share experiences and learn from real-world case studies, all aimed at enhancing your capabilities as an IT professional. Elevate your experience at the after party. Registration is now open. Register now for Zero Trust World 2026 and take the first step towards a more secure tomorrow.
Good morning, good afternoon,
Good morning.
and welcome to, what's the name of the webinar today?
Preventing application exploitation with application containerization. There's lots of big words.
Okay,
Lots of big words. is all
lots
I
of big
can say.
words. But basically what that means is we're going to limit what applications can do because we expect that we're going to hand you your ass one day.
And can we just say, by the way, welcome back to me. I mean, basically, you
Were you
cheated
gone?
on me. Yes, I was.
I
Yeah,
cheated on you with my wife. That's,
Yes, you did. Craig, yay, the chief party officer is back. Thank
Okay.
you, Craig. But yes, welcome back to me.
Okay, well, welcome back. I didn't even.
And how dare you? I'm just.
The funny thing is we
terribly
had a
offended.
different webinar scheduled, which we're still trying to reschedule, and it was supposed to be scheduled because you weren't in town. And then when we didn't do that webinar, I said to Sammy, "Hey, you can join."
You can give me all the excuses you want, but you still cheated on me with somebody another webinar.
Okay, that's fine.
Mike Dunn, good to see you back, my brother. Mike, you're on very thin ice, my friend. He's the one who said Sammy's much better than me.
Okay.
So yeah, my Irish Mike is on thin ice.
Yeah, but Sammy's real Irish, you're West British. So the way you tell the difference is real Irish people say tree instead of three.
Or threat instead of threat.
Yes.
Yes.
So okay, let's talk about what we're going to do today. We're going to really talk about how ring fencing can stop applications basically accessing things they don't need to access. I'm going to give you a perfect example. What's the difference between a backdoor and a vulnerability, Rob?
What's the difference between a backdoor and a vulnerability? A vulnerability is something wrong in a piece of software, something miscoded or done wrong in a piece of software that can be exploited. A backdoor is how software can be misused, exploited.
Intent. Okay, so let's give some examples. So, in 2021. There was we'll call it vulnerability in Kaseya that essentially was SQL injection. So it allowed an attacker to type a SQL statement into a text box or API call that would allow them to insert something into the database to do something on the machine that wasn't intended. So install a piece of software. That was a vulnerability. SolarWinds Orion had a backdoor because someone had intentionally added code
malicious
into the code that allowed them the code to do something malicious at a later point in time. I'm going to ask about 7-zip now, because October this year, we have to litigate this. Let's litigate it. October this year, there was a vulnerability in 7-zip that basically allowed an attacker to embed a malicious file inside a zip file. And when you extracted the zip file, so normally when you extract a zip file into your documents folder or your downloads folder, it will put all those files in a folder and then you can look at them. So say you get financial files. Technically, the taking of a zip file, uncompressing it into a folder, you see an Excel file, a Word file, and something else. The vulnerability, we'll call it vulnerability for now.
I was going to say, you've pretty much answered your question by calling it a vulnerability.
No, I haven't answered my question. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. So we are in the United States where innocent until proven guilty. And vulnerability allowed basically a malicious actor to put a pointer in the zip file that could extract when you extracted your file, it would actually extract a hidden file to somewhere else on your system. So they could put a piece of malware, reverse shell, and say, extract this to the startup folder.
Okay.
So question becomes, Did 7-zip intentionally leave that in there or not? Now, of course, 7-zip statement is this was a backdoor. This was a vulnerability. It was not intended. And I would, given the fact, now there is an if on this, you have to be a local admin. So given the fact you have to be a local admin for it to work, I would tend to agree with them. But there's two factors here that may change your opinion.
Is one of the factors the country that 7-zip is made in?
Yeah, not necessarily the country, but the fact that the country has been in multiple times caught putting backdoors, including our friends in Kaspersky. Let me reject this call. Sorry, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So the
question is it a backdoor or is it a vulnerability?
Now, given the fact you have to be an admin, I would say, well, that's a stupid backdoor. But then becomes another point. The software was written in Windows XP time where UAC didn't exist. So was it intended at the time? No one's ever going to know. But here's the bottom line. A vulnerable version of 7-zip can allow an attacker to
do things to your system.
Put malicious code in there that will extract and files to your startup folder if you're as an admin. So it's not as big a deal as it could have been if an attacker found out about it in 2002 when it was released.
I mean, I would be of the opinion that you shouldn't use 7-zip in general, but I would also be of the opinion that that's probably a legitimate vulnerability.
Yeah.
It was a mistake rather than something that was done on purpose.
I have no idea. It seems like an odd mistake to make, but I don't know. and we'll never know, by the way.
You could argue not uncommon. I mean, there's been vulnerabilities in WinRAR recently as well.
Yeah.
Not dissimilar in WinRAR too, so.
But the bottom line is we got a machine, we got a load of software on it, and the software could be full of vulnerabilities, it could be full of backdoors, it could be full of unintentional backdoors, intentional backdoors. It doesn't really matter. We have a bunch of software that is running on our machine that can access everything that the user who operates that software can access. Files, documents, the internet, other applications, things like this. And that leaves you really, really vulnerable to an attack because you've got 500 applications, 1,000 applications, some of them written in 1997 that weren't written necessarily well, and they all potentially leave you exposed.
Well, you could argue that every program that you can run on a computer increases your attack surface.
Well, you don't think you need to argue it.
Okay, fair enough. I won't argue then. I'll state it confidently.
Okay, state it confidently. Okay, so what we want to talk about is why don't we change that? Why don't we take away programs' permissions to things they do not need? Because if we do that, it means the risk is inherently lower. And two examples of where this was incredibly effective. One is SolarWinds Orion in 2021. SolarWinds only needed access to the internet to speak to various SolarWinds servers, licenses, and things like that. There was a backdoor put into it. This one was confirmed as a backdoor by Russia that allowed the core SolarWinds to reach out to a server in New Jersey to get instruction to do something bad.
Yes.
By limiting SolarWinds' ability to reach out to the internet outside of SolarWinds, it just removed the threat. But you could also stop it talking to other applications, things like that. But that's one example. The other one, much more serious, was the Exchange vulnerability. And this one was a really, really big shit show. Is probably a good word.
It was a doozy.
Yeah. And the part of the problem was there was a vulnerability in Exchange that essentially allowed an attacker to point at your server, change your offline address book URL, and when someone tried to download the offline address book, it would download malicious code to the server, not to their machine. And in this case, again, put it in the startup folder. And when they put it in the startup folder, admin logs in, it downloads malicious code, creates a GPO, pushes ransomware out to the entire organization, just from no interaction from a user. Now, IIS, of course, if you can't run that malicious script, it's going to get blocked if you're blocking software by default. But if IIS had been ring-fenced, it wouldn't have been able to reach out to the internet. It wouldn't have been able to write to that protected folder. It wouldn't have been able to do a lot of things. So we could have stopped the attack even earlier than stopping the
infected software. Well, we did in many cases.
Yes.
I know we got contacted by a customer saying, "Hey, what's this weird batch file trying to run the startup folder on my machine?"
Yes.
And logged in and traced it back to being created by IIS, so basically through the Exchange vulnerability.
I think in that case, the customer actually did all the tracing for us and just made us look good. But
okay. You took the credit for that, so
no, our friend was up on stage talking about what they found.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, it makes it really, really efficient. So what we want to do is look at all of the applications on our machine and stop them accessing things. And I'm going to start with the ones that in ThreatLocker we do by default, because PowerShell, most dangerous tool on your computer, we want to limit what it can do. So I'm going to show you what you should be doing in PowerShell, and then we're going to talk about other apps as well. So if I switch to my screen here, and I'm going to give a few pieces of advice here. So ThreatLocker released a feature a few months ago to flatten policies. So if you're using ThreatLocker application control, our policies run in order, which means the first policy that runs is basically the lowest order number here on the left, and the last policy that runs is the highest order number on the left. So if I just go to my very end of my page, I see all my last and my default policy, which basically says deny all untrusted software. If you deploy ThreatLocker probably more than a few months ago, your policies will run in a similar order, but they'll run your organization policies first, followed by your computer policies, followed by your group policies, and then the order number will take effect. So you have an organization policy, it always runs first, and a group policy always runs last, and then the order applies within. We introduced a new feature to flatten policy structure. It's gone for mine because I've
already done it.
But if you go into application control and policies and click on this menu, do you remember what it's called? Update policy structure. There's a knowledge base article.
I'll find out.
There's a very obvious button. It's like flatten policies or update policy structure or something like that. And we'll find out what it's called. And when you press out, what it does is it changes your policy so they'll now run in the order specified regardless to what level they're at. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about this, which seems completely irrelevant now, is if you've got 30 groups in your environment and you go in and you pick PowerShell, for example. So I'm going to pick my PowerShell policy here. I don't want to manage 30 different PowerShell policies. I want to be able to manage one, and if I want a second one, I can make an exception on that. So when I go into my policy, I'm going to go back to my applications page, and I'll search for PowerShell.
Mike, thank you. It's called Upgrade to Flat Policy Structure.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so
not that Mike, it was a different Mike. This is Mike Bottler.
Okay.
Boteller.
Otherwise known as not Irish Mike.
Not Irish Mike, thank you.
Okay. So if we go into a PowerShell here, so I've got my PowerShell, I go into my existing policies, I've got two policies right here. So one of the nice things about this is I've been playing with my environment. We can actually upgrade policy structures. Let me find something that I've got lots of policies for. So if I choose PowerShell ISE, you'll see here that I've got 7 policies in my environment. So I can click on it and I can actually just flatten it out. So because they're all basically copies of the same policy. So I'm going to pick this and promote it to the entire org. And the nice thing about this is I now have one policy to manage. If I hit refresh, rather than 7 policies to manage. And if I want to create a different policy for one user, I'd just basically say I'm going to make a new policy for Danny. He doesn't have it ring fenced, or the ring fence is limited, and I just put that above. As long as
that sounds tremendously dangerous.
Well, not to a ring fence PowerShell.
No, I mean you specifically. Create an exception to PowerShell ring fencing for you specifically.
So if you haven't flattened, it's a good idea to do it. There are a couple of considerations. The policy order. We haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. However, if you're using global groups, which now apply before the other groups, we can't technically see what the global group version is when we're reordering. Because when we flatten your policy structure, we reorder all of the numbers so they still work in the same order they worked before. But if you have global groups, you need to make sure that those numbers are lower than the sub-organization's number, because otherwise, potentially, they'll run after the customer's policies or the sub-organization's policies. But outside of that, the flat policy structure really is quite nice. Of course, normal testing advised.
I'm going to ask this question, even though it hasn't been asked in the Q&A, but I know it has been asked of me, are there any considerations or special considerations for MSPs who are doing this if they're managing multiple organizations? Do you have to do them all?
So you have to do the parent first. Why don't you do the child?
The parent first. You don't have to do all the children, though. You can do one particular child if you want.
You can do one particular child.
Or you can do all children.
Now, here's what's noted. No, you can do one child at a time, but here's what you should do is in your groups, you're going to have a global group if you've got global. So go to your policies in your groups afterwards and just make sure your global policies are like we start our policy order at 100, I think, is it? So make sure they're below 100, and they'll definitely run before your customers' policies.
Okay.
And you see mine's all messed up. We've got minuses. So what I did here is I'm going to go into my PowerShell policy, and this is a default policy in ThreatLocker, and we can see here that I've got a policy for PowerShell, but rather than just permitting it blindly, we created a policy to restrict access with other applications, to restrict access to files, and restrict access to the internet. And basically what this means is PowerShell cannot see any of my protected files, which are generally defined by either a storage policy or you can list files in here. Couple of notes when you list files in here, if you go and add like star.pdf, it will exclude the Windows folder and the program files folder intentionally, because you don't want to go and create a massive amount of noise on there. If you want something in the Windows folder, you would say C:\Windows star.pdf, and then it would include it. So doing file extensions is a really good way, because it means you don't have to remember every way you store your files. The other thing to do is be careful. If you go and add program files and other things, this is really intended for data. So keep it for data tiles. But you could also say, hey, I keep my source code here, so I'm going to put, I don't keep my source code there, but I'll go and add this example source code. The nice thing about this is global. So I change this, and it applies to all policies in my organization. So just have a list of where you keep your data, basically, or the file extension types. The next thing we want to do is this is going to restrict access in the file, so it can't see any files. The other thing is we are going to restrict it from accessing the internet. Now, by default, we do allow the Microsoft 365 tag in here. And the reason we do that is because so many people use scripting with Office 365. You can remove that if you don't want it, but it is enabled by default in there. Now, when you deploy ThreatLocker, it's going to learn these internet restrictions. It's going to learn these during your learning process. But before you lock down, if you want to be sure, you can do a simulation. Most people will walk you through a simulation of denies anyway. But you also have the ability to auto-populate here. So I can click this button here, and it'll actually tell me everything that PowerShell has accessed in my environment within the last few months. Now, you'll see here I have Windows, Microsoft, Google, Microsoft, and Google again. This is my data exfiltration script, so I'm definitely not keeping that one in there. But we can remove everything back out there if we don't want them. But that auto-populate gives you the ability to just see what it's doing. So
it is a good idea to look out for things. What was your exfil location? Was it
Google API?
Yeah. Also keep an eye out for things like GitHub in there. That is a common place to store malicious scripts.
Yeah. So
and it can be learned as well.
If you're not, so you should be checking that anyway. This is out of the box policy. Most people don't have problems with this policy. If they do, they get to see it during the learning and the simulation. So it's a very simple policy. So that's one example policy of ring fencing. I'm going to give you another one that I think, and there's quite a few out of the box that you'll see straight away. I'm going to give you another one from Microsoft Office. So I click on my Microsoft Office policy. I'm going to go into, actually, I'm going to go back into applications, because then I can see all my policies. And I'll just pick, that's a custom app. So I'll go Microsoft Office, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at my existing policies. I've only got one. I've already upgraded this, so I don't have to manage 10 different policies, which is nice. I can click on this, and I can see that by default, we're stopping Office talk to command prompt, C script, regserve, 4 files, and a bunch of other things. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, we say this app cannot talk to any other app on our system. The problem is with Microsoft Office, there's so many plugins and there's so many print drivers and things, it's a little bit harder. So we just created this, allow it to talk to other apps except this. You could also go into here and say, I want to stop Office going out to the internet. This is really powerful. But make sure you have run it for a while first, and make sure you hit the auto-populate, because that will tell us everything Office has talked to on the internet.
This is the one that was of interest to, and I can't remember if I told the story before, the Correctional Institute that wanted to block Office from accessing the internet because the inmates were using the clip art feature in Word to look at porn.
Of course they were.
Yes.
So this is a good, but you'll actually see, now this is what's interesting. I don't know how much I've gone, how many websites Office has gone to on my machine, but
well, let's find out.
This is giving me an error saying that there's too many errors, and we'll see the same thing if I go into. Now, most people don't get that, but I've probably done so many exfil scripts.
You might be explaining the question that David has asked, which is, I've never been able to auto-populate ring fencing with the lightning button. Is there something I'm missing?
Okay, so does it give you an error?
Are you
that
getting
says
that
or
error, which
does
is
it
too many,
just
David?
Not show anything? Now, I will say you should be on the latest version. Absolutely make sure you're on the latest version if you do this. Okay, so what this auto-populate is basically going to do is it's going to go into the unified audit. I'm going to do the same with Google Chrome. And look, again, I've got Google Chrome policies for every single group in my org. Nice thing about flat policy structure, if I want to deny it for one group, I can. And then I'm just going to upgrade it to the entire org, so I don't have to manage 50 policies. And when I go into here, I would expect to see the same things. When I click on auto-populate, it's going to tell me you can't do that because you've gone to Google Chrome. If you try to ring fence it from the internet, it now cannot do what it's supposed to do, which is go to every website in the world. But if I maybe say, what files do I access? It will give me a similar thing. I can see all of the files that Google Chrome accessed in my environment, and it will actually pre-populate the list. Now, again, Google Chrome blocking access to files might not work in your environment. In mine, because I've got a nice clean demo environment, I have a handful of files here. That's all it's accessed in the past. So it's quite easy. But if I now did this and somebody tried to upload a file to the internet, Google Chrome would say, no, the Google Chrome cannot access any files. I'm normally using Edge, so there's not many files in there. But I'm going to leave that in there anyway, so we know that policy is in place.
Craig has asked an interesting one, which is, we're running into limits with ring fencing. You can have 10 exceptions max, but we're running into more than 10 apps that want to touch taskman.exe. Any plans to increase this limit, or is there a workaround?
Okay, so, and yes, so to answer your question, or the taskman.exe, that's application exceptions, not file.
Yes.
We can have as many as you'd like to so the way ring fencing works, just in the background, a little bit of under the hood here. This here, all these exceptions are stored inside the policy, with the exception of internet exceptions. They are stored in what we call tag items in the background. What's nice about tag items, they incrementally go down. There's technically no limit. They're indexed and nice and fast. We are moving like file exceptions, the ability to have tag items in there so they can incrementally go down, because the policy, it's not that it's 10 items. There's a max size the policy can be in physical string. So if you put star.docx, for example, as allowing Office, that's better than putting C.
He does seem to be talking about apps specifically, though, rather than files.
But I don't know why. I've never seen anyone have a limit on this, so I'd be intrigued as an example. Because like a lot of things might see Task Manager, and I can auto-populate what Office has tried to talk to here. And I do see quite a lot of programs that, although there's an interesting thing.
That looks like a lot more than 10.
It's not a 10 limit, but there's an interesting thing here. I've got all except the below, and I auto-populated, which fills everything it has connected to.
Oh.
Which is definitely not. So if you're doing that, just be careful to make sure you're saying only the below. With Office, because Office talks to so many programs, we do tend to kind of almost put a bad list of programs rather than a good list of programs.
But it's still a lot more than 10 apps.
It's about the size of the file. It's got nothing to do with the number of apps. I'm not going to say that because that's excluded. Now, I'm going to show you some other things, because these are out of the box. We're putting the ring fencing policies in place that are going to help you relatively quickly. I'm going to go into some other programs. So I just installed, for example, Advanced IP Scanner. And when I click on Advanced IP Scanner, it's not got a default ring fencing policy, because we don't really have a suggestion for Advanced IP Scanner. Now, this is in two different groups, workstations and IT computers. Not something I'd want to put at the entire org level. I probably should put it at a computer level. But again, I can go into the policy here. I can change from permit to permit with ring fence. And this is much, much easier. And this is what 90% of your apps are going to fall into. They don't talk to many things on your computer. They don't talk to many things on the internet. So if I say restrict access to the internet for Advanced IP Scanner and hit auto-populate, it's going to say it goes to advancedipscanner.com and google.com. And the reason it goes to google.com is because, is this it? Nope. That's VirtualBox. Where's the advanced? I had it open, but I'll open it again. Going to run this. So I have this open as I actually scan to google.com. So if I now go to ThreatLocker.com and scan ThreatLocker.com with it, it tells me there's 3 hosts. So when I go back into here, again, I might have to wait a minute, but I'll hit auto-populate again, give it a minute to catch up. It will actually auto say that this application is also going to ThreatLocker.com. So you now get to see the domains, and it's smart enough to pull the top level, or technically the domain level, so you don't have to go and put every single host name in there, which is quite a nice. Now you can override it if you say I only wanted to go to portal.threatlocker.com. You can do that, but this will say, rather than I'm going to pull out every single Adobe subdomain, which is 200 of them, we're just going to pick adobe.com if you went into Adobe Acrobat. So this is really nice because you can see what it's doing in your environment. I could then go off and say I want to restrict access to files. I wouldn't expect this to actually show anything, but we'll have a go. When I click it, nothing comes back because it's never accessed any files. If I go into it, and let's just see if I've got any settings in here. Load favorites. Let me try and save it. So if I now go into here and say I'm going to save it into my documents folder, advanced IP scan, and then I probably have to wait a minute. It'll probably pre-fill that file and say, hey, it needs to talk to this file because this is what it's talking to in your environment. So if you're not seeing anything and you're not seeing an error, there's a high probability that it's actually got nothing. It's not talking to anything. So I'll give this a second. There you go. So I can see that it pulled my advanced IP. So it's actually automatically telling me. Now, I wouldn't install ThreatLocker and run this right away. Let it run for a while. Couple of caveats. If you're not using network control, you're not going to be able to see the network traffic until it's ring-fenced. So I'm going to change the dynamics of this a little bit and say, if you're not using network control or you're not using storage control, those files will not be documented unless you're already ring-fencing the process. So when you do that, what you want to do is turn on the restrict for the internet, and just switch it into monitor-only mode. And then in a few weeks' time, come back, because that will tell it to monitor these files. If you're already using network control, you're already using our storage control, it's going to log those files anyway, so you don't have to learn. The same kind of applies with the registry. When you turn on the registry, now this one has got a big caveat. It does create a lot of noise and has been known to slow down performance if something's using the registry as basically a scratch disk. So just be careful about this one. But if you turn this on, putting it in monitor-only mode, because it doesn't actually monitor the registry unless you turn it on. If you've already got it secured for everything else and you say, well, I don't want to put the whole thing into monitor-only mode, you can just add a wildcard to permit the wildcard and then come back and hit search again to get the other items later on. And then the same with other applications. What does Advanced IP Scanner need to see? It needs to see Advanced IP Scanner. Apparently, it sees Microsoft OneDrive and it talks to various Windows core files.
You saved a file in your OneDrive shared, your documents folder is presumably synced to OneDrive.
Yeah, I don't know why it's still. I mean, I'd be intrigued to see what it is in the folder, but it obviously hit something. So this is what it's looking at in your system. So again, use the program, let it run for a few weeks, auto-populate it, and if you're still not sure, put it in monitor-only mode and then do a simulation later on. This sounds like a lot of work, but 90% of the programs you use.
Well, this makes it a lot less work than it used to be. You used to have to go through the unified audit and literally try to identify or find everything that you would need to create an exception for. Now you click a little button and it does it for you.
I can literally go through. So, I mean, most of these programs haven't even ran on my machine. So I'll see if I can find something that's ran because it's such a small test environment. But if I find, I know I installed that Office. What's that? Open Office Pro. It's not called Open Office.
LibreOffice.
LibreOffice. That's the one I installed just beforehand. Again, the nice thing about this, so LibreOffice, we've got LibreOffice allowed. You see it's missing an update, which is interesting. We have 2 policies. Again, so I have workstations. I have 2 policies just for the sake of it, I guess, so I can merge them together, but I'll click on one of them. Permit with ring fence, and I can do the same thing. What does LibreOffice need to talk to on the internet? I can auto-populate it. It says nothing, which is highly probable because I think LibreOffice doesn't self-update. So probably it doesn't talk to anything. This is really nice because it means if it has a backdoor, it can't phone home, it can't talk out to the internet. What other applications does it need to talk to? Just LibreOffice. It's the only one it's now. Bear in mind, I haven't ran this much, so I wouldn't.
Yes,
I literally just installed it and ran it. But I did open and save a file just so I could see what happened when it auto-pop. I thought I opened and saved a file. LibreOffice. I restrict access to files. Maybe I didn't. Oh, it's probably not a monitored file. That's why. But if it's, I just put my documents folder. And click add. Give that a minute to deploy.
So David's question was specifically about Internet Explorer for interacting with other applications or internet access. I can see empty JSON string come back in my dev console. Did see a too many response for Office though. So it's Internet Explorer specifically.
So he's trying to see what Internet Explorer can talk to or what can talk to Internet Explorer. Because I'm going to get into that as well.
It looks like what Internet Explorer can talk to other applications wise or the internet.
I can't imagine it talks to anything. Because who's running it?
Okay, hang on a second. I was going to say, Silly Billy Award for me should look at Edge. I think it's just that Internet Explorer is not running, David.
Okay. Okay, so here, if I save something in Office, it will tell me what types of files. I can use extensions in here, so I can say, hey, if I'm using docx files, I can just add the entire extension in there. We are upgrading this constantly to actually show you suggestions. If you've got 500 items in a folder, rather than trying to add 500 items, we'll just show you this folder name and things like that. But ultimately, you can click it, you can tidy it up yourself, you get to see what's there, and it really makes it a lot easier for you to use your program. Now, I want to show you something slightly different, because there's two things here. When we're ring fencing an application, what we're saying is this application can access these things. So we're essentially putting fences around it to define exactly what it can do, and then we're poking some holes in those fences to say you're allowed to get out here, you're allowed to get out there. That's called ring fencing. But there's also another way you can do this. Rob likes to call it reverse ring fencing.
I love the phrase reverse ring fencing.
It's not reverse ring fencing.
Yeah, I know, but it sounds good.
Okay. And
It's
basically,
the opposite of ring fencing.
I'm going to pick PowerShell as an example here. So right now, I can open PowerShell from my machine. I can't, because probably I've got some kind of alert on my threat center and I've disabled admin tools, which I do a lot. So if you remember the previous webinar where we have an indicator of compromise, the warning threat hold, we automatically block admin tools until that, oh, I don't know what I just clicked on, VirtualBox, which is not allowed. I'm going to clear my alert. Apparently notes are required. Give that a minute so I can open PowerShell. So I can open PowerShell on my computer. Give it a bit longer to get through. And what that allows me to do, it really is taking its time. Unless I've got another policy, because I was messing around here yesterday, so I could also have another policy.
It's not like you, Danny.
Windows PowerShell. I may have already done this yesterday. Is it this one? Existing policies, entire org. Look, I already did this. No, I didn't. Permit with ring fence, not that one. Conditions. Not in there. Okay, so I'm going to deploy. Let's try again because I don't see anything. Okay, so I can open bash. It just took a minute to clear my results. By the way, if you ever want to see what denied something, you can always go into the Unified Audit, search for the program, and see the policy that denied it. You don't have to go through every policy you have to see. So here I have PowerShell open on my machine. Now I can also open PowerShell from command prompt. I can open PowerShell from Advanced IP Scanner, unless I just limited it. I can open it. I can't open it from Office, because remember we ring-fenced Office that it can't talk to PowerShell. So we can say, well, look, I've got 500 applications. I want to make sure nothing can talk to PowerShell sooner rather than later. So you can actually go in and change the rule set on that the other way around. You can say, I'm PowerShell, and the only thing that can call me is this program, this program, this program. So I know Office Installer needs to call it. I know my RMM needs to call it, my software deployment tool, but I don't want users opening it in Explorer and things like that. So what I could do is I could go into...
You could reverse ring fence it.
Can't reverse. It's not called reverse ring fencing. I can go into my PowerShell policy, and I can click on it, and I can say, I've got what PowerShell can call, but I can also say restrict it from the following parent processes. So in this case, what I'm going to say is command prompt. So I can say command prompt can call it, and nothing else can. So I'm going to say Office Installer as well, because I know Office Installer needs it. Save that. And I'm going to just, deny, and then I've got a deny policy here. So in this case, it's worth noting, I've got an allow policy that says allow PowerShell, a deny policy immediately after it saying deny all PowerShell. And the reason I have the deny policy immediately afterwards is PowerShell is also part of the core Windows platform. So if you don't have an allow policy, it will just hit the Windows core.
And get allowed.
So I've got two policies, one to deny it, one to allow it. 50 runs for my allow, that's first, 51 runs second. So I've done this. If I deploy policies, give it a minute to deploy, and just check what I've got here as well. I might just delete these policies to avoid the million things. You know what I'll actually do? I'll delete these and put these. I think that'll work. It's going to tell me PowerShell full language mode was blocked probably. So now, if I've waited long enough, if I try and open PowerShell from Explorer, just click run, essentially it's denied. Now, my policy had a hard deny, so you notice it's not actually giving me an error. If I try to do it from, say, here, it just gives Windows access is denied. If I wanted the user to get a pop-up so they could request, I could always go in here into my constraint mode policy and say, rather than deny, allow the user to request access. So now if I go into here, I'll have to deploy policies. Give it a little bit longer. It will actually give the user a pop-up. But while I'm waiting for that, I want to show you what happens if I open it from command prompt, because I said the only time you can open PowerShell is by opening it from command prompt. Now, of course, it kind of seems pointless to block it from Windows, but allow it from command prompt. But useful fact anyway.
For the purpose of the exercise, I think this is...
So you see here that PowerShell was now allowed. This pop-up here, just for reference, it's PowerShell full language mode, because you can also, and let's get into stopping exploitation, give a user access to PowerShell without giving them access to full language mode of PowerShell. And when you don't give them access to full language mode, what it means is I can't write custom code in PowerShell, but I can do various system functions and things like that.
David has asked a very important question, which is, so what's the official name for reverse ring fencing? I think you just answered your own question, David. Or does reverse ring fence stand?
The official name...
Do you have any better ideas?
It's literally what it says, restrict to parent processes.
That's way too complicated and difficult.
We can convert it into different languages using ChatGPT if you'd prefer.
Yes. Anonymous Attendee has asked, is there a way, and this is probably relevant to your point, your struggles a moment ago, is there a way to see what policies apply to a device?
Yes, very easy. And there's two things. So what I was struggling with a moment ago was what was hitting PowerShell. So I'm going to show you that first. I'm going to go into here. You can use wildcards in here. So I could search PowerShell.exe in here. But if I want to be more specific, I can say I'm trying to open PowerShell. Just say ends with, because I don't want to type the full path. And I'll say PowerShell.exe, hit search, and it will show me when it was being denied earlier on. It will show me the triggered policy block admin tools, which was my detect policy that says if there's an indicator of compromise, temporarily block admin tools. So that was that policy, and then I could click on that. But if I wanted to just see a list of policies for a device, I can go into the policies page. I can click on a device. So if I pick 100 days computer, webinar computer, and then I click show all policies, this will show me everything that applies to the device.
In order.
I'm assuming it is in order. Minus mine, minus 50, 50, 50, 50, 51, 52, 106. Yeah, it's in order. This is the order they apply.
Yeah.
And at the very end, we see our default policy, which is the workstation's policy. So if you want to see one device, you just pick the device name here. You can see everything that applies to it. And it shows you the order they run in as well.
Yeah.
Interesting fact that you might not know, I don't know if you know this, that if you have two policies at the exact same order, the one that was created most recently will always run.
So it's not good betical.
No, it's not good betical. It's
I was under the misapprehension that it was good betical.
No, if they are at the same order, the most recently created policy, certainly on the flat policy structure, is always the one that's run. So, and the reason we did that is because we kept ending it with this minus, 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 minus. So we just started to take the lowest one and just add them.
That makes sense.
At the lowest value, because we know that the newest policy will always take effect. So you don't end up having to go -1, -2.
Craig did mention a very good point, which is the real-time unified audit on a machine is awesome for seeing blocks, by the way.
Yes, if you want. So there's the denied items and real-time unified audit. So real-time unified audit shows you everything that's... the thing about the real-time unified audit is you have to open it before you run the program. So if I went into PowerShell now and typed I'll be able to see PowerShell's denied, and it will show me on the machine in real time. If I could get this mouse to work, I can see PowerShell.exe was denied, and it will tell me which policy denied it. It should tell me, there's the policy name. So I can see this in real time. Oh, this PowerShell constraint mode built-in policy is what denied it. So that's very useful. The other thing, which is post deny. So if you're on a machine ever and you say, I just want to know if something is being blocked on this machine, you can always go to blocked items and it will show up everything that's being blocked. And you know, it's like Google, I ring fence Google Chrome. So I see all these blocks happening right now. on Google Chrome, we can see my Postgres SQL is getting blocked because I don't have a policy for that. So we can see everything. And this gives you historic stuff as well. So if you're ever on a machine and say, something didn't work, is it ThreatLocker?
Why didn't it work?
You can just look in the blocked items tray and it will show you in real time on the machine what's been blocked. And it's not, you don't have to run it after opening it, which is nice. Okay.
Craig did clarify, so I was wrong. We have 27 applications in the ring fence rule. We use the only allow the below, and it gives us an error of unable to add exceptions, too many results returned when trying to add any more.
Okay, and it does depend on the length. We are moving things to a list basis. When you're getting to 27 applications that something's talking to, there's a high probability that this interacts with a lot of systems. So, for example, if it's an antivirus, it might attach itself to every process on your system. Mm-hmm. So it might not be effective to say, I'm going to stop this talking to any other applications. And it might be more effective to say, I'm going to stop it talking to the bad ones, the PowerShell, the command prompt. But we are moving towards a tag, so we remove those limits. But we're doing that first on files because I haven't heard anyone say it on the applications.
Yeah, files are.
Microsoft Office is a perfect example. It touches so many things on your system. It's better to just say, hey, it's not allowed to touch these things. Now, ultimately, what I would like everyone to focus on and what DAC is focusing on and when it's creating your DAC score is what percentage of applications are you actually restricting? And what you're going to find is if you've been running ThreatLocker for a long time, make sure you're on the latest version because there is some issues where it won't count if the older versions of ThreatLocker do not record the application ID that launched it.
Oh, actually, I was going to mention something else that I think would be quite relevant. Cleaning up applications. It would be presumably a good idea to clean up applications before you start trying to ring fence things because there's no point in ring fencing things that aren't in use.
Well, that's true. So a couple of things you can do with that. And what I started doing actually on our own internal staff was I looked at how many policies there were. So you can sort by the number of policies here. The other way. Oh, I guess that was the right way to begin with. And you'll see that, hey, okay, there's not many things with multiple policies, but let's say here, I've got 6 group policies. Worth noting, this count is updated, I think, hourly, but maybe daily. And the reason it's not updated in real time is if you remember the days that the application page took 3 minutes to load.
Yes.
So we update it daily. So I've already promoted this one, so I don't have to think about it again, but it does update periodically.
There isn't another important part of this, and it's another really big reason why going to the flat policy structure is a good idea, which is removing unused policies and removing unused applications does it down to the computer policy level when you've got a flat policy structure. I don't think it did before. I only found this out recently. So somebody basically, when you've got a flat policy structure and you go to the top level and you go remove unused policies, it also removes computer level policies that didn't work on.
I didn't know it didn't do that before.
It didn't, yeah.
However, I did actually record this because if I go into application and say remove unused, this is a good idea. Get rid of things that aren't used.
Mm-hmm.
Applications without policies will be removed. Basically, what this does is this deletes custom applications because there won't be built-in ones that have no policies, that things you've removed all the policies for. If you go to the policies page, I'm not sure why there's 2 of these and click remove unused. Did you know I get a completely different screen?
I did.
And I actually sent a message saying, I do not understand the difference between these.
Yeah, remove and remove all is using.
I'm really not sure what the difference of those are. So I asked someone to actually go and clarify that for me. But this one will remove unused policies and applications. I don't know why we don't get the same thing on both screens because they allow you to check the box. And I certainly don't know what remove all means. This date is really cool because what you can say is remove things that haven't been used for 3 months.
Yes.
Because now, any application that hasn't been ran for 3 months offers 0 or 6 months or whatever number you pick.
Do we know, even if somebody's only got 30 days?
It updates them nightly, so
that's
it doesn't
fine.
matter.
So that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, and it won't remove something that you just created. So if you say, I want to remove any policies for applications that haven't been used in the last 6 months, if you just created a policy, it's not going to remove it. It has to be created for over 6 months before it will remove it. I'm still not sure what the remove and remove all button does. I said this to our dev department.
Well, one removes and one removes all. I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Remove what, though?
I don't know.
I assume it removes when I select this and I pick a date. I assume it removes all when I hit remove. So I sent it to our dev team, so I still haven't got an answer. I'm gonna press it one day and see what happens. Maybe one just I wouldn't press remove all now.
In fact, I think I did this myself for my own demo org recently, and I selected remove all.
They probably do the same thing.
Just a bit crazy like that.
But
I think it does exactly the same thing.
So because you're essentially picking a date, or maybe you have to hit removal to remove. I don't know. Let's we'll get an answer on this and we'll get the label renamed so we know exactly what it's removing. But it is a good idea to clean up your policies if it's being unused. The other thing to do is if you go to the policies and you pick the ones that have the most policies, like I've got obviously I flattened my policy, so I've got 7 policies for Internet Explorer right now. All of which are allowed, which is incredibly crazy because why would we allow Internet Explorer? So what I'm going to do, because I want to block Internet Explorer for the entire org, is I'm going to promote one policy. It takes a few minutes to promote, and then I'm going to just go into there and say, you know what, I don't even want to allow Internet Explorer. I'm just going to block this. I've got some ring fencing in place for the entire organization. And that will stop Internet Explorer working full stop. So cleaning up policies so you have less is a really good idea, rather than having to have 7 policies. I mean, pretty much when I've got 7, I've got 7 groups. It's got a policy for every group. I've got a default ring fence policy for robocopy. Why do I do that 7 times?
Mike, not Irish Mike, you legend. Per the KB, the remove button will remove unused policies for the hierarchy level you are currently viewing. And the remove all button will remove unused policies for all hierarchy levels of your organization.
Okay. It's still going to change the wording on that.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, no, it is. It's terrible.
We're in trouble when the CEO and the chief product officer doesn't know what the button does.
Craig has asked, will blocking Internet Explorer also block Internet Explorer mode in Edge?
If you block Internet Explorer, it will. Yes, I'm going to say 99% sure on that because I'm pretty sure it just renders using Internet Explorer. Do any websites need to run in Internet Explorer mode?
Here's a question, actually, completely off the subject, but one of the things that we block PowerShell by default from communicating with, so there's
is Internet Explorer,
BitLocker, something else in Internet Explorer. Why do we block PowerShell from calling Internet Explorer specifically? There is a reason, and when somebody told me what the reason was, I went, "Oh, that's a really good reason." I keep forgetting what it is.
Because you can use Internet Explorer, you can load the Internet Explorer driver, hook into Internet Explorer, and access the internet from Internet Explorer instead of PowerShell. So it shows as you can basically bypass the ring fence restrictions on.
Gotcha.
By hooking into Internet Explorer. That's why.
Mike Dunn just said you're welcome. Mike, it was the other Mike who gave us that useful information. The non-Irish Mike gave us that useful information.
So when we're going through this, and if you spend an hour, you'll get so many of these done. And a lot of these apps, you can just see they're not going to access anything. It's something like Dell Driver or Logitech QuickCam Support app. So you go in, Windows Phone, for example. If it's being used in every group, just promote it. So then you have less, especially if you're in flat policies. Because then if you want to create a deny for one group, so you could, for example, say, I'm going to create a deny for Google Chrome on my servers group, but I'm going to allow it for everything else. I can then go into here, just go through and say, what does it need to do in my environment? Stop it from interacting with other applications, hit auto-populate. It'll tell me what it's interacted with. If there's a lot in here, then you've got to start questioning. The next thing I can say is stop it talking out to the internet. I can see it goes to Microsoft Chrome. It goes to msedge.net, DigiCert, so I can allow those in there. If you don't get a lot in here, it probably means it's not doing anything. Things like 7-zip, do not talk to the internet ever, which is good because it means we feel safer.
What about for updates?
It doesn't update auto-update 7-zip. You have to manually download the new package.
Gotcha.
So I will say, make sure you are running a later version of ThreatLocker, preferably the latest, and make sure you're running it for a while. If you're on, because it was like 10.5 something, we introduced this application ID. And essentially what it's doing when we hit that auto-populate is in the unified audit here, if I pick anything, so if I pick this Google APIs here, and I go into the details, more details, we store the application ID that called it, and parent process application ID. It's looking at this to determine what needs to be populated in there. So if you're not on a later version of ThreatLocker, there are notes in the release notes when we fix various of these. It may not have that information in the unified audit, therefore it can't auto-populate it. If it says there's too many results, it means you're always going to get that. If you go into Google Chrome or you go into Internet Explorer or Edge, sorry. If I say Edge and I pick auto-populate, it's always going to tell me you can't ring fence this from the internet. It accesses too many sites. You see, it's even taken a bit of time to figure that out. There you go. It says unable to add too many exceptions. And the reason we're saying that is not because we don't want you to ring fence it, but if there's over 200, it probably means it's a web browser. Okay. Any other questions?
No other questions at the moment. The ring fencing a web browser is actually an interesting one. So we had a customer in Scotland a couple of years ago, and his unified audit was full of denies. And when looking at it, it was because he had a ring fence policy on Internet Explorer. And it was because they needed it for one legacy application or something, but he didn't want it to be used for anything else. So he literally just ring fenced it and said, let it talk to where this
Internet Explorer talk to my 1985 air conditioning system.
Yeah, pretty much. It was clever, but it was really noisy on the unified audit is the only problem.
Because people were trying to browse the web on it. They learn not to after a while, though.
This is true. You would hope so.
So, again, this is how simple this is. It's going to reduce your surface area of attack by amounts you cannot imagine. Go through the apps in your thing, merge policies where you can so you don't have to have duplicates. I'm going to get rid of my deny there. You just click on here, auto-populate. Make sure you've been running ThreatLocker a while before. If you want to do a simulation, you can put it in monitor only. So rather than say permit with ring fence, stop this accessing my files, stop this accessing the internet, or other applications, we can hit auto-populate. Nothing there, probably because I don't even run 7-zip. Nothing there, nothing there. You're going to see nothing on a lot. And if you're really worried, hit monitor only, hit save, come back a week later to do a simulation in the unified audit.
As well as cleaning up your applications before you do this, or cleaning up your policies and applications before you do this, would it be worthwhile, for example, sorting your application list by rating to try and ring fence the most potentially dangerous ones rather than...
Absolutely. So a lot of them you'll see they're already ring fenced, but if you sort by rating, it will give you a risk score, a combined risk score. So the way we calculate risk score are risk and business probability of use. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you're running SAP, there's probably actually a higher risk than there is running Angry Birds, because SAP's been around for a long time. I'm sure it's got vulnerabilities and got lots of CVEs, so it creates a higher risk. But also, you want to pay less attention to it than you would Angry Birds, which has zero business benefit in your environment. So we give a combined score, and this would allow you to go through the higher risk ones first and say, well, I want to limit these first. I'm intrigued to know why LibreOffice has such a high risk score.
I think it's because it's garbage and written in Java.
Malicious macro. It supports macros. There you go. I'm learning a lot.
Dave asked, does remove unused only remove allows, or is there a risk of explicit denies being removed? Answer is no.
It only removes
allows. Jeff, how about some application cleaning maintenance plans that automatically clean in unused apps after a default period?
We could. It's a risk, isn't it? It's.
I think it would be fair to say that we are reluctant to change or do anything automatically that might potentially have an impact and cause disruption in customer environments.
Yes. So I don't know if it hasn't been used in a period, then the customer comes back and says, "Why did you remove this?" And because
it will, you can be guaranteed it's going to happen. They use a tax software once a year, and then they go to use it, and it's suddenly not allowed anymore, etc. Oh, Travis, yearly tax software is an example of why that's a bad idea. Great minds think alike, Travis.
It's a good idea to be looking at this. One of the things that DAC will tell you if you've got a high number of unused applications. So if you've got a high number of unused policies on a machine, it will say, why are you allowing this when it's... I don't know if that's on the current build or if it's already released. So I lose track of what we're doing. But it's
If you said it's a thing, I'm going to assume it's a thing.
I know it's a thing, but the question is
It's a current thing.
it becomes a thing in my head, and then in Teams, and then in a scope, and then in development, well before it becomes a thing.
Okay, well, it's a thing in your head.
It's definitely past the scoping stage.
Anonymous attendee has asked, when you use a remove button, is there a report that gets generated or some other way to view what was removed?
Oh, good question. So I'm gonna hazard a guess here, but let me try this.
I'm gonna hazard a guess as well.
Because everything is going to be under the users here. Oh, apparently there was a new builder.
They pushed a new portal build.
Oh, did I block my internet access? No, I blocked my internet access. That was funny. So I just literally I ring-fenced the internet and stopped myself going to the internet, which means I'm kind of
use a different browser.
Am I using Chrome? Oh, I did. I ring-fenced Chrome, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I need to use Edge.
Use Internet Explorer. What's the worst that could happen?
Have you tried to render our portal on Internet Explorer?
No.
I'm sure it's beautiful. It is worth noting that our portal did work on Internet Explorer. I'll log back in and give myself.
So remember, we're looking for a report or some other way to view what was removed when you use.
So because it will be removed in here. So let me go and click on remove it because everything gets logged in the system audit. I'm assuming because it literally tells you everything you do in the system audit. I'm going to go and check something now. If I go into application control, let's be dangerous and say remove unused. And we'll just pick a day of like a week ago. This is going to really mess up my demo environment, but why not? How long is it?
Still 290. It hasn't changed.
You don't know how.
Do remove all, Danny. Live a little.
Remove unused. Remove all. I don't know if it schedules it as well. Oh, it's gone out to 288, so we'll remove some.
Okay.
And I'll go back into my users, audit, search, audit pays, remove unused applications, not matched for the... I don't see the individual applications.
Nor do I.
It just tells you you ran
That's interesting.
Well, we should log that. We should put that feature in.
That sounds
tells you which
sounds like it bugs Danny, so it's a bug.
Yeah. So the answer is no, it doesn't, but it will do.
It will tell you that you've done it, but it won't tell you what the individual things that have been removed are.
Now, it's possible it will later on, because I don't think this happens instantaneously, because it's quite a big process in the background. So I will double check that it doesn't happen
when it's finished.
When it's actually running it, but we'll go and...
James, on a similar note, James has asked, is there a recycle bin for deleted policies?
There is not a recycle bin for deleted policies.
Should there be a recycle bin for deleted policies?
It's called turning off policies. So I think the problem is if we have a recycle bin, then it gets really, really complicated because you incremental downloads and that get complicated. You can turn them off if you're not sure if they needed.
The answer is no, James.
So, what would be more interesting is could we remove unused policies or turn off unused policies?
That's not a bad idea. James, Mike, very important question. Why is DAC no longer available?
DAC is available, however, it's being pushed live across various instances. So if it's temporarily not, you can log a ticket. We could potentially get it turned back on because as it gets moved to the live database, the database is because it's going from beta to live. Some people have experienced it's not showing when there's no data there. If you log a ticket, someone could probably force it on for you. It should be going very live and much faster very soon.
Very live.
Very live, as opposed to, because we had it all on beta servers.
Oh, God. Irish Mike, I've logged a ticket, but they were not able to enable it.
Oh, I'm going to go and find out why that was.
We'll find out why that was. This is Irish Mike as opposed to not Irish Mike.
Okay. Is the org name Irish Mike too? We'll find it.
It's, oh, hold on. Oh, God. Real question alert. You've mentioned making sure devices are on the latest 8 version, but the process for updating the device group seems to have changed. I can still update my global groups just fine. Well, you shouldn't need to do that. But it seems I have to specifically enter each child org separately. I used to be able to select all and tell it to update. Oh, dear Irish buddy, could it simply be possible I'm doing something wrong, or do I need some re-education or redirection?
Show child. So on my screen here, I just realized we're over time, so we need to give away some tickets for Zero Trust World as well. Show child organizations. Oh, you can't select all. That's interesting. You can do it like this.
And you could never do it via global groups. Global group version numbers never really did anything.
No, but I'm imagining you could do... So you can do it like this. Check slow child. You can also choose how many per hour you do. Delay the start date. Select the update window. Worth noting, you've got to be on a new version in order for the per hour to work. So
10.7.4 and above.
Yeah, so it means if you're on 10.7.6 and you go into 10.8, it will go immediately.
No
But if
need
you're
for
on
service
10.8 and you go into 10.8.1, it won't. You could, before I imagine, do this. Update agent. Like, I wonder if I did that. I mean, that doesn't add them, actually, when you do that.
Try selecting the version first.
No, but normally when you pick a group, it pre-adds them.
Yeah.
We'll take that as a note.
Yeah,
we're going to
Michael.
give away some Zero Trust World tickets, Rob. We are out of I think we are over, so we will be back.
Oh, God, so we are.
I'm not sure when we'll back, but we'll be back soon on the next webinar. Thank you for listening. And
happy Christmas, happy holidays, happy all of those things.
Yes. Will we be back before Christmas or not?
I don't think so.
No, apparently not. So,
yes, happy all of the things.
All of the things. And thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Danny.